Hey kids, it's Mr. Fly here, hope you're well. You join me here today in Abingdon at Blade Motorcycles, where today I'm going to be riding this big beast, the Ducati Multistrada Enduro. Haven't ridden a Multistrada for some years, or the big version anyway. Really looking forward to having a little ride on this, so if you're interested on this bike, stick around and stay tuned. Right, a big old beast to jump onto. Keyless on these as well. I've got the key in my pocket, so I think we just press that button to bring it all alive. There we go, up comes the dash. Bingo, very fancy. We're in neutral, and then press. There we go. That's all there is to it. Mirrors look like they're adjusted okay for me. Let's get this show on the road. Now, it's been a while since I rode a Ducati Multistrada, the big full fat version at least. It's been about well, it would have been about 2014 when I last rode one, actually. When I was looking for a big adventure bike myself, I rode the Multistrada, I rode the GS, I rode the KTMs. I ended up buying myself a GS because I found the Multistrada just a bit too top heavy for my liking, and a bit too sporty. Well, the bike has come a long way since then, in those, what, 5-6 years. And this, the Enduro, of course, has the bigger engine now, the 1260. It's also got a slightly lower seat than the original Multistradas, which is good news for me because I'm only a shorty at 5'8" with a 32-inch leg. This one, although it is a big old bike, I can get the balls of my feet on the deck, and it doesn't feel too ponderous at a standstill, at least when I jumped on them. And the balance of the bike is beautiful, just running along here. It doesn't feel intimidating at all. This has got this massive front area, reminds me of the BMW GS Adventure. In fact, when you sat on that, it's got a similarly massive front end. That's great, of course, because it means you've got plenty of fuel capacity, so if you're going touring, which, let's face it, most of these bikes are going to be used as tourers, I would think, then you've got loads of time between fuel stops. And like all these big bikes, as soon as you get rolling, all the weight just disappears and it feels nice and light and agile, much more so than you would think. So first off then, on this first impressions review, I'm going to hit the A34, which is a slightly faster bit of road, and just see what she's like on dual carriageway, just to check out the wind and weather protection. Okay, so here we are on the dual carriageway doing motorway speeds. Just going to overtake this truck when I get a chance. Looks like this car's going to let me go. Very busy day, unfortunately, to be out riding a bike. But here we are, look, doing an indicated 74 miles an hour, and yeah, wind protection pretty good, as you'd expect behind this massive front end. Not a lot of wind on my knees in the middle of me. A little bit of wind on the shoulders though. Nothing on the helmet to speak of. So that's okay. The screen on here is quite big, and it is adjustable via this arrangement here. You just pinch it and there you go, that's in the lower position. In its low position, I'm getting clean air on the top of my head. In the upper position, it sort of skirts over the top of my head. A little bit of vibration on the very top, actually, which maybe would be a little bit annoying, so perhaps an aftermarket screen would be in order. Something like an MRA Vario screen, something like that. But generally speaking, wind protection pretty good. Super comfortable as well. For doing big miles on motorways, then this would be absolutely perfect. I know this is the Enduro version, so it's got off-road written through its DNA. And I'm sure it's brilliant off-road, but I imagine most people that buy these bikes, a bit like Range Rovers, won't be taking them off-road. I certainly won't be on this ride, I'm sorry to say. It's not my bike, and I don't know where the off-road spots are around here. I'm riding just on the outskirts of Oxford at the moment. I borrowed this bike from Blade in Abingdon, so thanks very much to those guys for making the bike available to me. So yeah, on faster roads, no issue at all. Of course, loads of spare power to overtake. Pretty good wind protection, albeit a little bit of vibration at the very top of my head. Bigger screen would probably cure that. Of course, one of the big changes on Multistrada since I last rode one all those years ago is now fitted with the big old TFT screen on here, laden with features and functions, all of which I'm not going to have time to go through in this first impressions review. But needless to say, everything is there, including, I'm glad to say, a proper fuel gauge just at the bottom. While I'm stopped here, actually, there's a chance to see my feet. I'm on my tippy toes, look. This is the standard seat on this bike. And for me at 5'8", as I say, a sort of medium-sized fella, I'm on my tippy toes. But it doesn't feel anywhere near as top-heavy as I remember it feeling. So they've done a good job. I don't know what they've done about the weight distribution, but it doesn't feel as ponderous as I remember it. So a much better proposition in that respect. And this one, as you can see, has got half a tank of fuel, so plenty of fuel on board. And it doesn't feel like I'm about to drop it, although that's not famous last words. Right, I'm going to do my usual little test route when I come out here to Abingdon. It's got a very nice up and down quick shifter on here, by the way. I keep forgetting to use it, but it works really, really well. When you do use the clutch, yeah, it feels nice and light as well. And whilst we're talking about practical aspects, the mirrors on here are massive Great Barn doors. Look quite nice actually. I quite like these stems and the shape of them. No vibration at all that I can see. Great view out the back. Really good mirrors. Seat is lovely and comfortable, nice and wide, cupping my cheeks beautifully. And the riding position is typical of these adventure type bikes. Big wide handlebars, nice upright riding position. Bags of road presence on this as well, which I like. Suspension on this bike, just I suppose on the harder side of the settings, if that makes sense. So if there's, like, you know, hard and soft and in the middle, this is a little bit to the hard. There's none the worse for it. It means the handlings are really nice. Lovely balance to the bike when you're just doing this really slow stuff in traffic. It's not a problem at all. Feeling's nice as well actually for a big old twin. It's not all jerky. It's nice and smooth. It's very difficult for manufacturers these days to get that right because of emissions controls and so on. It means they run the bikes quite lean. We've done a nice job on this. It's not jerky at all at slow speeds. Alrighty, let's come up to my usual walk around spot just up here then. I'll park the bike up, show you around the bike, talk you through the spec in the usual way. Pretty good turning circle on here, I must say. Well, this is a tight little turn and yeah, no problem at all. Feet up turning around there. You could probably turn her on a road width, I'd imagine. Alright, let's stick her there for now. Set neutral. Come on. Bit of a... There we go, got there in the end. Stand, got a little bit on the side so you can find the stand, that's nice. And there we go, and as I say, this is keyless, so to stop her, we'll do that the old-fashioned way. Alrighty, here we go then. The Ducati 1260 Multistrada Enduro in this sort of sand colour, which makes it look a bit more deserty, I suppose. Nice looking bike. I've always liked the way that Multistrada looks. A beautiful, beautiful machine, and that's, you know, what Ducati are good at, isn't it? They do, when it comes to design, they know what they're doing. All right, let me get the phone out, and I'll get the other camera fired up, and I'll talk you through the spec in the usual way. Right, there we go. I hope you can see that okay. Oh, sun's come out, which is rather nice. Yeah, handsome looking bike. So there to the spec then of the Ducati Multistrada Enduro. So let's start with the engine. Here we are. It's a 1262cc V-twin DVT rather, testostretta. DVT stands for Desmodromic Variable Timing, which I guess is Ducati's answers to things like, well, actually it probably came out first, but BMW shift cam, variable cam timing type thing. Anyway, don't get into technical subjects. Whatever, it works well and it looks nice. Power output 158 horsepower. Torque 94 pounds-feet, so really powerful bike. One of the best in class. I mean, it feels a really pokey machine. This is more a bike, an adventure bike for sports bike fans, really. No lack of power. Proper brakes as well on here. Let's go and have a look at the brakes. You can see these massive twin discs on here. 320mm discs on the front with proper Brembo calipers, 4 pots. And then at the back we've got 265mm disc, and again with the Brembo, unusually 2-pot caliper on the back as well. Cornering ABS on this, so it's got one of those IMUs on board. Suspension wise, it's got 46mm upside down Sachs fork on the front. And then it's at the back. Let's have a look at this. We've got a Sachs single shock, which is adjustable. Let's come around here, show you that. It looks splendid, sat there. And this, of course, has Ducati's what they call skyhook suspension, where it sorts out the sort of weight distribution front to back and keeps it all balanced at the. And it feels good for it actually. Keeps it nice and balanced on the go. Seat height on here quite high, 840mm to 880. And as I say, they've actually lowered that slightly over the old Multistrada, and I find this much more manageable than the Multistradas I've ridden in the past. Weight on this, dry, 225 kilograms, so quite light for a big old adventure bike. And the tank capacity on this, massive, 30 litres. Ducati say you'll get 330 miles out of that tank, which is just awesome. If you are touring, you're not going to be stopping at fuel stations too much, which is rather nice. Electronics wise, Bosch cornering ABS, cornering traction control, wheelie control, the semi-active skyhook suspension I mentioned. It's got the up-down quick shifter, which Ducati called DQS, cruise control, colour TFT, LED headlamps, backlit controls on the switch gear, multimedia system, vehicle hold control, cornering lights, keyless ignition. Basically this thing has got absolutely everything thrown at it. Let me just show you the controls on the bike. Actually quite a nice feel to these. These are these PCB type ones, so they don't travel much, but relatively straightforward. This is the button you use to change the riding modes on the bike. And then you've got the cruise control here, always nice to see on this sort of bike. Big old LCD, or sorry, TFT screen, and then the normal start-stop controls on that side. Nice fit and finish on the mirrors. Don't like these brake reservoirs. I don't know why these premium brands persist on having plastic brake reservoirs when they could have nice anodised ones. But overall, nice looking machine, I think, and fit and finish on it is beautiful. Price, by the way, starts at, according to the website, 17,755. So an expensive old bike. It comes in red and sand. I think if I was going to go for one, I'd go for the red. Alrighty, that's it for the basic spec then. Let's jump on and ride some more. So yeah, big old beast, but as I've said a few times, not ponderous at all. Right, let's bring her to life again. I'll press this button here. Hopefully the TFT will come to life. Here we go. I love watching these things. I'll never tire of that stuff. We're in neutral, so we can start her up. And this is this screen adjustment I showed you. That's the lowest position. And that's the upper position. Actually, that works really, really well. Much better than some of the other manual adjusters I've seen of that type. Alrighty, let's crack on then. I'll do my normal little trip. I know there are better roads around here than the ones I ride, because I'm always told about them. But this isn't my local area, so I tend to stick on a circuit that I know. And this particular road I'm about to go down to is really, really bumpy as well, so it's a good test of the skyhook suspension. About the time they sorted the potholes out here. Everything about this bike is standard that you get with the Enduro, so it hasn't got an aftermarket pipe or anything like that. It sounds really nice. Goes really well as well. I must just take this opportunity to thank the guys at Blade in Abingdon for letting me borrow the bike so I could bring you this review. Fantastic showroom they got up there. If you're in the Oxford area, head down to Abingdon, check them out. Not only are they a Ducati dealer, but Kawasaki, Honda, and there's even a Harley Davidson dealer next door, which I must befriend someday. Having said I'm familiar with this route, unfortunately most of it is these 50 mile an hour speed limits, which are a bit of a shame, but there we are, can't have everything. Seat on this is nice and comfortable. I can move around quite a bit. I mean, I'm only, as I say, a sort of medium to small fella, but I can move around quite a lot, so if you are a bigger chap, I think this bike would suit you ideally. Now, I'm not going to take her off roads, let's say, but let's just try standing up and see what she feels like. Yeah, nice and balanced. Feels quite wide between your legs, as you'd expect, but it means you can grip hold of it if you want to. And I'd imagine off-road on this, if you must take a big adventure bike off-road, and I know some people swear by it, then yeah, I think that would work all right. So I guess the $1,000,000 question is, if I were buying a bike now, an adventure bike, would I go for one of these over the BMW, which I'm such a big fan of? That's a good question. This is a little bit cheaper actually. If you compare this up against the BMW GS Adventure, once you spec one of those out with the semi-active suspension and so on, you're looking 18, 19 grand. So you save a little bit of money on one of these perhaps, although they're quite close. What you don't get with this, which you do get with the Beamer that I love, is the integrated sat-nav, and I would be using the bike a lot as a tourer, so that would be a black mark against the Ducati, just something that BMW do well. Other than that though, there's not a lot about this bike I don't like. I have to say the quick shifter on here, both up and down, although I keep forgetting to use it, works much better than the Gear Shift Assist Pro on the BMW. I do prefer this engine to the Boxer, for sure. It's just a much faster bike. If you're from a sports bike background, as I say, then you're going to prefer this bike over the GS any day. The riding position feels very similar. I guess the answer is you go with the bike you like the look of. So let's get nitpicky then. Anything about the bike that I don't like? Tough one. I guess if I had to split hairs, the TFT actually isn't as good as the one on the GS. It's not as clear. For my money, the numbers on here are a little bit small. I can read them, but they're not as in your face as some of the other better TFTs I've seen. But other than that, there's not really anything I can say that I don't like about the bike. It's got good wind protection up the front, great road presence. Feels nice and light when you're riding it, even though it is a big old bike. It is actually quite a bit lighter than the Beamer. It goes really well. Not really anything not to like about her. Hello, out on their Triumph. Nice to see. Turned into a lovely day now. Bit of blue sky. All is well with the world. Oh, except a van has just pulled out on me. Hopefully we'll be able to dispatch him pretty soon. Those big old Brembo brakes work a treat on here. Let me just try the back one. The back one's a little bit rubbish, but aren't they always? It's a lovely part of the world around here. I really should come out here more often and do a bit of exploring, recce out an alternative route that I can do these first impression reviews on. Right up here I know the road gets a little bit clearer, so I'll be able to overtake this ambulance hopefully. Wishful thinking, it's so busy today. And now I'm stuck behind a tractor. This is why I say never bother to come riding a motorcycle in the southeast of Great Britain, because although it's lovely, it's so busy, the roads, you just can't ever get going and you can never make progress. It just saps all the fun out of it. Right, winch mode off. Please let me get past him as we go around the corner. Now's my chance. Right, a little bit of de-restricted road to finish off on. Wow, what a machine. Absolutely flies. So to summarise there, what do I think to the Ducati Multistrada 1260 Enduro? Well, it's a lovely bike, there's no doubt about it. A lot of money, getting towards 18 grand, but it's laden with electronics and technology. It's comfortable, it's fast, it looks good, it rides well. If you've got that sort of cash and you're in the market for an adventure bike, then definitely worth checking out, particularly if you're a larger gentleman or lady, because it is a big old beast. If you're much smaller than me at 5'8", then you might want to pass, just because it might be a bit much to handle. But very little not to like about it. A very nice machine indeed. Thanks again to Blade in Abingdon for lending me the bike, and thanks to you for watching the review. If this is the first time you've been to one of my reviews, then do consider subscribing. It'd be great to have you along. I don't just do bike reviews here on the Bissenden Flyer, but I do the odd live stream, I do how-tos, I do bits and pieces in the garage, trips and tours. Basically anything and everything to do with motorcycling, I'd try and cover it here on the Bissenden Flyer. It'd be great to have you along. Alright, I better take this big old beast back to its owners, although I think I've stolen it. Thoroughly enjoyed riding it. Hope you've enjoyed coming along with me, and I look forward to speaking to you next time. Until then, this has been the Bissenden Flyer. Cheerio.